Well, folks, today we're going to take a look at a kit, a fun time kit. I love putting different kinds of kits together, and it's for, if you've ever heard of Theo Jansen and his Strandbeast, here's actually one of the, an official one. This is from the Gakken kits version of it. You just kind of blow here, and you get this crazy, organic sort of leg movement. He's Theo Jansen is an artist in somewhere over in Europe along the coast there, Dutch, I believe, who came up with this thing. It's an open source design. There's this really cool organic looking stuff powered by wind. They go along the beach, roam. Some of them do some really fantastic things. They're called the Strandbeast with 2 E's. And they're really cool. I heard about this through Adam Savage's love of them on the on his various videos on tested.com. And company you might be familiar with that kind of took another idea from the maker community, the Bristlebot, and made a big business out of it. Also has some Strandbeasts of their own. Cute little thing. I actually got this one. It was a little expensive for me at the regular price, but I got this at one of the seasonal Christmas shops. So pretty cheap price on this, and I mean you can see got that wondrous movement. They call them a Strandbeast, EA, and unfortunately don't credit Theo Jansen on it anywhere. But it's a neat little thing. I got it for cheap. But we have this little guy here from Hexbugs. Well, I have obtained his big brother. This is the Vex Robotics Hexbugs Strandbeast. I think it's over here. Beast, B-E-E-B-E-A-S-T kit. I had seen this again when I originally actually saw these at Toys R Us. Saw the price of like $90 and went, no, that's not going to happen. No, and especially because, again, they don't give Theo Jansen any any credit for it. It is open source. I don't think they're necessarily obligated to, but they don't. It kind of rubs me the wrong way. But, saw this last weekend at Target for, was $89.99, now $44.98. So, hey, I took a second look at it. Actually, some really cool stuff with it. It has... you see it has the remote control here, but the really kind of neat thing is, apparently it has, this Vex Robotics system is actually a real system that people use to make robots and things with, and it has a brain in it. It can actually work autonomously. You hook it up to this brain. It's got a couple of sophisticated motors. I'm having a hard time seeing what I'm pointing at. It has this sort of brain unit. It has all kinds of different little micro switch settings you can put on it. It's got a couple of LED things there, and I think those are, it's got a couple of IR sensors to see how far you are away from stuff. And it's got gears and all kinds of cool stuff. And, for half off for $45, I figured why the heck not? I have already looked at some Amazon reviews for this. They're not very favorable, I will just say that right now. Seems a lot of people have problems putting it together, that the instruction manual is pretty terrible as well, and that the programming is kind of confusing. Apparently they do have an updated assembly instruction version on the website, but let's take a look at what is exactly inside of this big old box here. They do have, I think there are 2 or 3 other big Vex Robotic system ones from Hexbugs that are sort of blown up versions of their tiny little guys. They all have various different sensor setups, whatnot. This one, I really like the Strandbeast design and the movement in the legs. I actually have one more of the Gakken kits besides this one here, so it's something I've started to collect. So let's see what's in the box. I have opened it already a little bit just to see, but haven't really explored. There is all kinds of crap in there, and there's a lot of individual bags for each kind of component. It seems like has its own bag, which is just kind of handy. Here we have right away. Here's the remote control. I think it's IR, so I'm not a huge fan of the fact that it's IR. This little guy here has an IR remote control on it too. Yeah, I mean you have to have it pointed at the thing, which I'm not hugely fond of. It's got a kind of an interesting snappy action on the buttons there. And then it's got different modes. Not exactly sure how the remote control controls the modes that are in it. Maybe we'll figure that out. Yes, sort of turn this way, turn that way, and some other various things. Maybe that will be explained in the manual. I think it takes a 9-volt battery. That's interesting. Then we have all kinds of pieces and parts and bits and bobs. I think a lot of these blue pieces are really just to make it look kind of cool. I did look a little bit at the instruction manual online, but not too detailed. Here are some of the actual things to put it together. Got some big old parts there. Some metal square axles. More of these parts. These, I'm sure, form all the legs, because it is a pretty sophisticated design in the leg. Actually, how the actual Strandbeast works is it's really a very special kind of linkage that he came up with, and it's all based around ratios. It's how it moves. There's a lot of there's some really neat websites online that kind of demonstrate how it works. I'm not going to go into it here. Here's some assembly pegs, a whole bunch of little pegs, more connector pieces, more connector pieces, more connector pieces of different lengths, and that's different lengths is important to how the legs work again. Here's some different connector pieces and some gears. Whole mess of gears. More, these look like these might be real leg pieces. I'm not sure if they, oh yeah, I think these are the feet, actually. We got two things of feet. And then big, thick magazine length instruction manual, which is actually really nice. It's full color, but apparently it's hard as hell to follow. I'll just leaf through here really quickly to see if there's anything that really gives any sort of idea on how to program it. I know one of the things, like I said, just about every single Amazon review complained about the instructions. I think right now these are about, I think they were 50 or 60 on Amazon, so they're coming down in price to kind of match what Target has for them, because I think they've been out for almost a year now, and I don't think they've sold too many of them, because again, they're really expensive, so I don't think it's not a favorable thing for a lot of people. I've heard there are also a couple, like how it goes together, you kind of block a couple access to the battery compartment. I'm trying to see if there's any clue on how to, oh yeah, it does have a sort of a programming guide, so that looks like fun. This looks like, get a book about programming computers, or even building a computer from the 80s or early 90s, and dip switches, something you have to set up. I fortunately have only ever worked in the realm of plug and play, but there's a lot of, it gives kind of some other stuff there. I'm going to be using the online instructions when I put this together, because apparently these, again, have some bad steps in them. Presumably everything that's left in here is all of the sensor stuff, so this is just an insert. So here we have, this is the sort of brain. You see there you have your dip switches. And the plugs that everything goes in. I'm guessing it probably communicates with everything via like I2C or some other sort of communication protocol like that, because I think some of the, yeah, like I think the IR sensors have like a pass through, so it doesn't, you can plug something else in on top of it, so it daisy chains together, and then you have there's the sensors and LEDs. It's got some really thin, spindly wires, which I'm not a huge fan of. I don't like that too much. I prefer a bit thicker wire. And then here are the two motors. Well, they only have 2 wires to them, so they're probably not anything too terribly sophisticated, unfortunately. And they use like square rod axles. So there's that. Everything is nicely matching in color. So yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing here to do left is put the sucker together and hope that I can. People again complained about it taking a very long time. It took my husband hours to put this thing together. They were really excited, and it never worked with my kids. And it apparently one of the other problems is it's kind of tight fitting in some places, so it doesn't move smoothly. As you can see, I mean, this they have to move kind of smoothly to work. I mean, it's got a lot of joints, like in the actual Strandbeast here. This one might be easier to see on. There are a few different leg joints and rods that actually move to make it work. You'll have to, you might be able to see it. There's 4 or 5 links in there. I'm not that familiar with. There's a central spinning axle that's on kind of a cam, and then that has 2 rods that come off of it onto this big rod, and then there's one that goes down here, and this is linked through here, and you got the foot that sticks down. It's pretty complicated. He's pretty brilliant for coming up with it, but you can build one not with too much difficulty. It's all about, and getting the nice movement in the legs is all about the ratio of the lengths of the different parts of it. So it's actually kind of cute. It's like they're scaled up. They actually look very much alike. Consistency right there. So again, gonna build this. I'm gonna time lapse it probably. We'll see with my Rico, well, not Rico, my Pentax Q, and come back, and maybe magically this will all be together. Or maybe I'll stop partway through and complain about how hard it is, or find some things that are wrong. So see you in a little bit. So we are back, and here it is. I'm sure you probably saw some of my screw-ups there in the time-lapse. It took me a few hours to put this together. I'm not exactly sure how many long hours it was. I never ever keep track. This is the mini one. I think they actually came out with a slightly bigger one than this for $40, but just to give you, I think it could almost walk over it, but not quite. Yeah, this thing it's pretty freaking huge, and it has a bunch of parts, and it's kind of tricky to put together. I would definitely say, yeah, use the online instructions. It kind of has you build the legs first, and then it has you build the two halves, and then put the two halves together. I think in the actual instruction manual, it tells you to build from the middle out, and it was kind of a weird order. So Yeah, I had a couple problems because I put one of the legs together wrong. Other than that, it went together pretty smoothly. Actually, I am a mechanical engineer, so I think I can handle something like this, and I am very experienced with Lego. But yeah, it came out pretty well. Some of the instructions are a little bit confusing about how to actually plug all the wires and stuff in. It's kind of a pain in the butt too if you have to change batteries, because it's the other side that this panel has to come off, and if you want to do any kind of programming, the micro switches kind of get covered up by that panel, and then they're buried in there. And these panels are a pain to get back in because the pieces that they hook into are free to rotate, and it's kind of... there are a few different types of pegs that it uses. That's another thing that I had to go back and fix, because I used one of the wrong pegs. There are pegs that have like square ends on them, and there are pegs that have just round ends on them. And the ones with the square ends on them go into the gears, and I used one of those where I was supposed to just use one with the round end to hold a joint, and had to go back, take that, figure out which one it was. It wasn't too bad, and had to fix that. But there are, like I said, there are a good number of leftover pegs for it. Although some of the unique ones they only give you one of. The common ones they give you a bunch of. It would have been nice if there were a few more of the unique ones, or if some of the unique ones for like the gears were separated out. It might be worth starting out, if you're going to build one of these, to pull those out first. Everything honestly goes together pretty easily. Some of them, like you'll see this has like 8 pegs in it right here. Those are hard to put together because there are 8 pegs, and you have to get all of them to not only line up but click together. It's rocks. It's not rock solid, but it's pretty good. The controls, a little weird. I do get it to run. I have it working really nice and smoothly, so I'm proud of myself for that, because I've seen complaints about it not working smoothly. But I've read some. It's controlling. It's kind of a massive pain. The controller is wireless. It's radio. It doesn't have an antenna on it though. You have access to the button on the control module there, and so it just turned on. I actually have it in manual mode, and it's moving on its own. As you can see, it's got pretty good motion. I guess it wants to move that leg. Oh, now it wants to move the other leg. Of course. Let me see if I can hit the control here and see if it'll actually follow my bidding. It's in manual mode on the controller, and it's just moving on its own. I didn't tell it to do that. Let me see if I can... The controller is linked up, but this is the one kind of problem with it, is it doesn't really follow your commands terribly well. Let's see if it actually links up. I don't think it's going to have... See, I'm hitting the... Switch that. See, it's on... See, it's in manual mode on the... It's kind of cool. It moves around on its own, and it moves pretty well. Oh, there. Maybe that... Is it doing what I told it to do? Yes, it is. Okay, there we go. Sort of. I managed to put it together pretty well. It's not... See, I think even in manual mode, it says in the instruction manual that it relies somewhat on the sensors. I can't imagine that it's going to have a terribly good battery life, just from the standpoint of you're running a pretty big construct. I'll turn it off here. Off of 3 AA batteries. There's a lot of moving parts. It's kind of squeaky when it moves, because there's a lot of plastic-to-plastic joints. But overall, it's pretty cool. I'm glad I did not pay $90 for it, because it doesn't work exactly how I was kind of expecting it to. But it's a cool thing, and it's enormous. There is a lot of plastic in this thing. There's certainly a lot of really interesting things that you might be able to do with the Vex program module and stuff like that. You can't really do a lot other than flip the micro switches around and see what that gets you. And some of them are like disable motor and some other kind of funky little things. But I think it works. I mean, it works decently. I would give it maybe a 2.5 star. I mean, I think for the actual quality of it and the construction side of it, the instructions aren't very good, but overall I think as a thing, it's probably a solid 4, but as a usable thing that you can like drive around and scare the people, the cats, do crazy things, put a camera on it and mount it, and like have it walk through a crowd and watch people freak out, kind of an idea, and I don't think it's gonna... It doesn't really fulfill that, and like I said, I don't have a lot of faith in the batteries working all that well. So Overall, 2.5 stars. I don't normally give things star ratings. I just feel like it today just because I saw all the Amazon reviews for it, and I think that's about where it sits. I'm not nearly as negative about it as some people are, but it's not tremendous. And now I got to find a place to put it. It's probably on top of the cabinets that all my other Strandbeasts are on top of. So hey, until next time, build more kits of crazy, ridiculous robots.